welcome to Badger Tough Inside the Circle. I'm assistant coach Craig Pokorny here with Hall of Fame head coach Alan Pokorny. We're here to review the week in Bennington Wrestling. A quick rundown. We're going to, like I said, recap this past week. We got some JV and some varsity competition this week, and then we'll hit up what's coming up next week and talk about anything else on our minds. Just a reminder, you guys can submit questions to the Badger Tough Wrestling Twitter, and if you want them answered on the air, we'll get them answered. Today's show is sponsored by MidwestDesigns.org. It's MidwestDesigns.org. We have various things like some of those clear bags to take to the arenas, and we can put some cool designs on there. The design up there is of the Go Badgers, so if you want something else, just let us know. We'll figure it out with you and make some cool clear bags instead of having just the plain old clear bags or not being able to bring anything into state wrestling or any other arenas.
Just another way to support the Badgers, I guess.
Yep. So just a quick recap of the week. Had a little shorter week of practices since we had Friday competition for the varsity and triangular for the JV on Monday, so a little off, but everybody got four full practices in.
Yeah, it this time of year, as we start getting into competition, we don't get a full 5-day week of practice anymore until late January, but we're used to that, and we plan accordingly and try tapering towards competition as we needed to, and go from there. I thought that this week's practice was a little bit better than last week. I remember early last week was pretty rough, with kids struggling with with the techniques and understanding what we're doing, and but this week is a lot better, and that's normal. As kids learn what we're talking about and what we're showing, they'll pick it up more and more as season progresses, and by end of the year, we'll just be able to call it out, and they'll be able to do it. But already seeing some improvement in that area. We're still, I'd say, a little behind where I'd like to be in demonstrating, but we'll catch things up over Christmas break and the second half of the season more into the developing and fixing mode and going from there to peak at the end. The one thing we need to be well aware of is making sure we're staying in shape too, and conditioning wise, and that's one thing when you start getting 3 and 4 day practices only a week. It's something that if you're behind on that because of an injury or something else kept you out early on, that's tough to make up. So that's something we'll address again this week. Being in condition, I think, we had a good competition this weekend to see where we're at, got a little bit better idea, but, certainly those are things we're all going to talk about here in a little bit, I guess.
Yep. So, like we said, to start the week, we had a JV triangular with Fremont and Elkhorn South, and then sticking with the JV, we had the Fort Calhoun JV tournament on Saturday. We had some kids do well there. Lucas Peterson, Tyler Hangley, and Carter Lurch all got fourth. Dawson Frost, Joe Wells, and Logan Burmester got third. Phoenix Mavropoulos, Nick Law, and Keaton Andrews got second, and Jake Steyer came home with first place. So had a lot of good performances out there. Still lots to work on, a lot of little things. Biggest thing I saw was a lot of guys kept fighting through their matches, even when they might fall behind. Some guys came back to win or made the matches really close when they could have just thrown in the towel and given up. So that was really something I like to see, is when guys, when the going gets tough, they keep at it and really come back in those matches. And like I said, some of them they're able to come back and win, some not so much. But it was really good to see them battling through adversity and really sticking with it throughout the whole match.
Yeah, that's good to see, especially those young guys that don't have a lot of experience, that if you have that fight and that drive to win, eventually that technique will come around. They'll learn it. Anybody in the next 4 years, they're going to learn the technique. That's not a problem. It's the fight. That's what we need to see, and that's great to hear that you saw that out there.
So Friday and Saturday, we had the varsity at Boys Town Invite. Always a tough tournament there. Used to be like the toughest tournament out there, state-like for some brackets. Not quite that level anymore, but still a super tough tournament. Top-level teams there. You got Scott, you got Blair, so you got Wahoo, some of the top teams in Class B that we're gonna be competing with down the road at state. So it's good it seemed like a good measuring stick to see where we're at against those kind of teams. What are your thoughts there?
You're correct on the Boys Town Invitational, and I mentioned that in my email to the newsletter, that in the past it had been touted as the toughest tournament in Nebraska, and for good reasons. And we used to believe if you could medal at this tournament, you'd be a state medalist, and that was very, very true in a lot of cases. But the last few years, it's not quite met that level, but it's still a very strong tournament. The big tournament in Council Bluffs took a lot of the schools from the area, especially from Iowa. We used to get Lewis Central, when they were state champs in Iowa, and some of the strong schools from Iowa would come over to wrestle, and even some other schools from around the metro area went over across the river, because that's like a 40-team tournament, and,
right.
And that's something that I've kept an eye on, and right now we're planning on staying at Boys Town. I can't say that would always be that way, but at this point we are. That is a tournament that doesn't intrigue me, and because you see teams from some of the top teams in the country, coming from Apple Valley, Minnesota, and Kansas City area, and so there's a lot of great competition there. We like Boys Town because, number one, we see Scott there, and that's a team we want to wrestle against and see how we stack up against them, and also gives us an opportunity to wrestle their guys and then see how we do against them, and what adjustments we need to make so we can beat them down the road when it really matters the most. Plus, as you said, it's still a very good tournament. There's at least 5 teams that are ranked in the preseason rankings. You mentioned number 1 Scott. Blair's up there in the top 5 in most rankings, and they actually won the tournament. And they may be possibly the strongest dual team in the state. They're solid all the way across the board. Wahoo is another team. We saw in the week before, finished ahead of them there. They finished 3rd. They're very strong. The bigger the tournament, the stronger they are.
Right.
Because they put 5 guys into finals, and that scores a lot of points when you get to the big tournaments, get into the finals, and you have Omaha Central there, who we're going to see on Tuesday. They're a top 10 team in Class A. I think one ranking has them 7th and another one 9th, but they're there, and Schuyler's in the top 10 in some of the preseason rankings, and they're a team that we finished ahead of. So gave us a chance nice to see that kind of competition, and second week in a row we finished ahead of a top 10 team. I'm not saying we deserve to be there in the top 10 yet or not. I think we need to show more to get that kind of a ranking. Not that I don't believe we have that potential. I really do think we have that potential. But you got to show it on the mat before you earn that ranking.
Right.
And as we said before, we're returning. As far as state points and all that, we're not there very high, but it's not what we did last year; it's what we do this year. And but I really like the direction we're going. I like the work ethic we have in the room. There's cases where we can pick it up a little bit more. And I think some of this stuff that we're seeing now, as far as the results and with the kids, they're starting to see that, hey, yeah, I need to pick it up a little bit more. But overall, I really like, the attitudes, the work ethic, and the character of our kids. So things are going the right way. As far as individuals, we had Hunter Anderson made 106 for the first time, which is good. He was on his descent plan to get down to 106, so he couldn't wrestle there at the Bennington Invitational or in our duel, and he fortunately was able to in this tournament and the rest of the season. So he got a sixth place medal. It was real good for him, I think. First of all, to get down to the weight, being a young kid and never understanding, never having to lose weight. You got to learn how to. It's not a simple thing.
Yeah, and a lot of kids that do even lose a little weight and try to maintain their weight in middle school and in the kids club programs, a lot of times they don't know how to do it the right way that carries over to high level results like in the high school. A lot of them will cut weird ways at the last second or do some interesting things, stand on their head right before weigh-ins or whatever. But we haven't seen that in a while, I don't think. But
not in our program, at least.
Our program. But yeah, it's different to maintain your weight during high school season to keep your competition level up and not cut the wrong way and get yourself dehydrated or affect your performance. So,
right, and Hunter still needs to learn that yet, still too, and other guys too on our team, and so, but it was good to see him. He got a win there. He was able to get in for the medal rounds and got sixth place. So that was a very good start for him. He's watching him wrestle. You can see has got some potential there. His technique is far off yet because he's very inexperienced. But he works hard in the room, and that's going to pay off someday. He's ahead of several kids that we've had, thinking back to other kids that started out at his age and where they were at. I would say he's ahead of a lot of those kids that end up having some good success for us. So, that's good for him, a good start, and great to get him in the lineup. That's going to help us a lot. Having a 106-pounder is a big deal, because you'll run into duels where, you can pick up some wins there, and sometimes there's a forfeit, and I know it stinks to make weight and not get to wrestle, but, that's 6 more points for a team. But you also get a chance to pick up some wins in dual competition. Matthew Coe came in at 6th place also, and all these placers, these are still, even though we talked about the tournament isn't what it used to be, it's still a very strong tournament. It's definitely stronger than what the Bennington Invitational was, and it's a great test for our guys. Matthew had a great match against a returning state medalist, Lomax from Boys Town, and had a chance to beat him late in the match. Matthew was down by 1 point going into third period, trying to get off the bottom, and couldn't quite do it. Just coming within 1 point, and that was the toughest match that Lomax had the whole tournament. That guy won the tournament, and that was his closest match. So it's really great to see Matthew's hard work paying off. He puts a lot of time in the off season, and we preach that a lot. That that's how you get better. Is not only wrestling during the season, but you're lifting in the off season. If you're participating in sports, that's fantastic. But if you're not, look at other ways to develop your athleticism or wrestling skills. And Matthew chooses to do a lot of wrestling, and so it's starting to pay off finally. Because he took a state medalist to the limit. And even in his other matches, his finals match that he had, against Skyler at Castro, I'm pretty sure that guy has been a state qualifier also. Matthew was ahead and actually looking pretty good, and just made a mistake at the end that got him pinned. But seeing him be able to compete with those guys now, whereas a year ago those level of wrestlers he wasn't competing against. It was go out there and it was over in a couple minutes. But now he's competing. The next step for him is to start beating some of those guys, and so good to see him get a medal. Colby Puck ended up fifth. He was one of the few. Most of our guys, real quick going back, most of our guys finished higher than their seed was. That was something I was real happy to see. Matthew Coe was one of those guys. Yeah, I don't remember what his seed was overall, but I know it was in the top 6. Same thing with Hunter. And now Colby probably finished a little lower in his seed, but that's, that was a little deceiving because Boys Town seeding criteria is, the way they do it is just weird. I mean, I can't say anything other than it's all messed up. It's too early in the year to have a set criteria. You got to use some good judgment, and they it's not that they don't try. They're trying to get it done right, but they're trying to put criteria on something. When you have teams who got snowed out last week and have no records, but record counts, so those guys are not getting seeded. So you might be drawing some tough guys first round or second round or whatever that would normally be seeded, and so the seeding was all messed up. But for Colby to from where he was at last year to this year, placing 5th at this tournament was very good. The matches that he lost, I felt that the things that cost him the matches are fixable. But something we need to work on and get better. So very positive for him, I think, to get there, and keep building for the rest of the season. And then we had Robert Greenwood getting 4th. And he had a very tough bracket.
Yeah, he had a tough semifinals match.
I thought he wrestled very well overall. I was pleased with it, because of the progress that I see. Now I want to get over that hump for him too, to where he's wrestling with the elite guys, but it's not quite beating them all. And like that Orsi from Scott, in the semifinals.
Was it tied? And he got caught, made a mistake, and caught on his back?
Well, it was a close match. I remember going through my mind. I know it was 0-0 going into the second period. Robert chose down. We had some discussion about it before. We know Orsi real well, that he's a very tough cradler. The good thing, Robert works out with Isaac in practice, and Isaac's does the exact same cradle, so that helps him in that area. But he did get caught on his back for a second, but he rolled through and got a reversal, and really came close to catching him on his back in that situation. Would have been nice, because that would have been enough to get the win. But the thing was, I know that last year Robert beat Orsi in the duel at the Badger Duels, but that was kind of one of those things where we caught him and pinned him.
Right.
And so going the full match and seeing Robert battle him very close and very tough, was good. And again, that was Orsi's toughest match of the tournament, was against Robert. So that's good to see. And, one thing we need to work on with him, and we'll review the film more too to see if there's anything else. But what I take out of that match for him is that he was getting in on shots, but Orsi was very good at his defense. Applying a lot of hip pressure. Robert needs to shoot through the shot, not just shoot into the shot and hesitate for a second. He's very good at finishing from there. But the great ones, they react quickly, and he was getting caught underneath. So when you get caught underneath, Robert was in on several shots in the first period, nearly got some takedowns. I think if he wins the takedown battle, he wins that match. And he ended up getting underneath, and the problem with that is once you're underneath and you're hanging on that leg, and your opponent's applying that hip pressure, that's real tough on you. That wears you out. And as the match went along, that wore Robert down a little bit, I thought, because he's hanging on underneath that leg. Now we're getting to it. We just got to get to it and finish it. Right. So, just a little bit of adjustment there, and he's winning that match. Mm-hmm. And then he can choose neutral and not go down because, that's a dangerous position against Ortiz going down. And that's for anybody. It's not just Robert. It's anybody.
Right.
They choose top a lot of times because they know they can turn guys and pin them or score a lot of points. So then Robert's last match for third and fourth, he ran into a nemesis from last year that Robert has a lot of trouble with. Came out real well, got a takedown right away, was looking good. Chose neutral and in the second period and got taken down, but that's another one where we win the takedown battle, we should be okay. If we win the takedown battle and don't get turned, man, that sounds like a lot. That is a lot actually, but Robert, has a little bit of trouble with Frost from Blair. That kid's very, very tough on top, and he's a pinner. And basically if the score tied 2-2 going into third period, they chose top, which is highly unusual for that level of an athlete. But from their perspective, I mean, they know that they can turn him on top, or he believes strongly he can, mm-hmm. and that's exactly what happened. He did. Robert did a nice job the whole second period fighting off and not getting turned, and really came close to scoring several times. And and if he had scored there, I don't know. I guess you still end up going to be on bottom because they chose top. We're just going to need to have to either get off that bottom or just not get turned in that situation. But the thing is, in the past, that kid turned Robert a lot sooner, a lot quicker. The matches went faster. So, again, I thought he closed the gap on a wrestler, but hasn't passed him up yet.
Right.
We got the whole season. We're at the very beginning, and as I tell our guys, we want to be good at the end of the year. What happens now, it only helps us to the end of the year to be better. So, certainly got some work there, but we're in those battles at least.
Right.
Next, we got Luke McDonald getting fourth. That was a great finish for him. He may not realize that, and that's okay. You want guys to aspire for more or like to do better. But where he's at as a freshman, at 152 pounds, he's still battling the seniors. The maturity and the strength. Luke is a strong freshman. He's strong for his age, but he's not strong for a senior. And so he does once in a while get in situations where he's being out-horsed and he's trying to, horse guys around where that worked in middle school and all through his whole youth career because he was the same age. Now you're battling guys that are 4 years older than you.
Right, yeah. When he was wrestling Lopez from Schuyler on the Kanzi side, there's a couple times he was trying to force a throw, trying to force a head chancery, trying to horse him over, and just had to settle him down and say, Luke, get on your shots. Your shots, you're taking him down all day if you just finish low and hit your shots right. And so once he got hit on his shots, he basically took it to Lopez pretty pretty easily. But at first, it was a close match because he was almost on his back once and just trying to be stronger than he is.
Yep. So yeah, that's part of learning as a freshman. He's got to adjust his style a little bit. We don't want to change everything because what he did when he was young was successful. Watching him in middle school, he made a big improvement from his 7th grade to 8th grade year, I thought, on his technique. And we don't want to change him. He's got a little bit of funk in him that won a lot of matches when he was younger, and you don't want to take that away because that's great when you're in scrambles. You can catch guys like that, and it really helps you out. But he's going to have to beat guys with better technique, and that's still progress. It's hard to change what you're doing, and we don't want to change everything, but we want to make adjustments, and we will continue. But certainly a great finish for him, I thought. He was I think a 7th seed, coming in, getting 4th place at a strong tournament. The guy he had for 3rd and 4th was from Tumwa, Iowa. The kid was not flashy, but boy, he stayed in great position. He had his hands down, where it was very tough to score, and Luke actually got in some nice shots. So I liked that. The guy was just, very solid in his positioning, and that's tough to beat a guy like that, unless you're just far superior in him. And the guy was strong too. So, Luke battled him tough and didn't quite win. But, as I said, he's young and he's still working, and our goal is to get him ready by the end of the season to make a run at the state tournament. So. And then we had Buzz Luter getting 3rd. Just a fantastic tournament. I'm really pleased where he came from last year. He's made a huge jump from last year. I know he was on JV last year most of the year. Behind a senior that, and Buzz had some varsity time the year before. He's wrestling real well right now. He beat an undefeated wrestler from Omaha Central, and that's going to be key on Tuesday that he does that again. The nice thing is he actually beat him twice. So the more times you beat him, the more you get in their head. That's my opinion. I know there's some people are afraid that, hey, the more I wrestle him, the more he figures me out. Well, I like the other side. The more we wrestle them, the more we figure them out too, and the more confidence we should have beating them, and the more we should get in their head that they're not going to win. So Buzz's first match, I think he won by 6. Then the second time he wrestled him for 3rd and 4th, and pinned him, and really dominated that match. So that's good. The only thing that concerns me though is Omaha Central is always so dangerous.
They throw some funk out there sometimes, and they'll catch guys on their back, and they're pinners there.
Right. So that's just something we got to watch out for, and we've already addressed that, on Thursday because we knew we'd see him at Boys Town and Tuesday, and some things we worked on, and and it's good too for not only them but others that you might see down the road. But anyhow, Buzz is wrestling great. His one loss he had there was to Bodorsky or whatever his name is from Wahoo, and Buzz was actually in on a nice deep shot. Looked like he was running it to score, and I don't know if he slipped or got out of position or what exactly happened, but he kind of came around the front a little bit rather than driving from the side, and pretty much got whipped over right to his back, and that was it. But that's a very tough wrestler. You make a little mistake, and they're going to take advantage of that. But anyhow, I just very impressed with where Buzz is at right now and how he's wrestling. So great to see that, especially out of the senior, that really deserves some success. Then we had Garrett Minke finished 2nd. And Garrett also has taken a big jump. from last year. Garrett was good last year. Don't get me wrong. He had a lot of success for us. But the way he's wrestling right now, he's right at the top of the top 3 or 4 maybe in the state. We'll see how it goes this weekend too. But he's beaten some very tough wrestlers. That Boys Town kid is very strong, very good wrestler. They've beaten a returning state qualifier that's ranked, I think, 4th or 5th in the state. That Boys Town has beat the Wahoo kid twice, and we've beaten Boys Town twice. So we haven't had a chance to wrestle Wahoo, but by common opponent, we're ahead of him. And so we're ahead of Garrett's ahead of some kids that are ranked already. And then in the finals, Garrett's wrestled the number 1 rated wrestler in the state, and it was a great match.
Yeah, that kid from Schuyler is really, for a 220-pounder, he's really got some moves. He's always been slick on his feet, and a lot of guys at 220 have big problems with him. As quick as he is and light on the feet as he is for a 220-pounder, like for any weight, especially 220.
Sure, yeah, the kid's real quick, got some great shots, and I know that the Jack Sutton from Wahoo, I know his dad real well, but he's up at 285 this year. Mm-hmm. Said last year that that kid from Schuyler, they call him Chewy, so We'll call him Chewy here. Chewy always gave them fits, and Sutton's a UNK recruit, a college recruit. So Chewy's giving a college recruit all they can handle, and now Garrett's right in that match. It started off, Chewy was quick and got some takedowns, but Garrett kept battling in there and kept it close and was able to score himself. And by the end of the third period, Garrett was wearing him down, and we were down by 2 points. In the third period, late in the third period, Garrett had a nice shot on the out-of-bounds line and just hanging on, and so close to a takedown, so close. It was a call that the official made the right call, but I could see some of them maybe giving us the break, but I think it's the right call. He didn't quite have control. He did have one of the legs, and he was reaching for the other, trying to pull it in, and it was just too far out, and Chewy is pretty flexible for a big guy. So it was a great effort, just fell short. But to be in that match with that guy shows that Garrett's up there in the top 3 or 4, I think, in the state, and we're certainly going to have some matches down the road with some good competitors to really see how far he's came and get him ready for state too. So real excited about that also. And those are all our medalists. We did have a chance at a couple other medals, but had ACT tests. Zach Utek and Benton Cornett both had ACT tests. They had to forfeit their last match and to take the ACT test. I really thought Benton had a good chance of medaling. Zach had a tough opponent, but you like to take your chance there. Mm-hmm. I thought the way Benton's wrestling this year, he's another one of those that's really shown great improvement this year from over last year. I thought he would medal and possibly medal fairly high. That would have gave us a few more team points and some more medals, and even some of the other guys, they're out there wrestling hard. I know some of them are especially the younger guys are getting a little frustrated that it's, they're not winning like they would hope or think they should. That's a positive in a way. I'm glad to see that they're not happy with the losses. You never want them to be happy with the loss. Right. You don't want them to be too upset that they either quit or they shut down. And and not wrestle hard the rest of the year, but you always want them to be competitive, and hopefully that motivates them to work harder or smarter in practice and get better.
One other thing is if you start to take some losses early against some tough kids, it only gets tougher with the tournament formats because you don't get seeded and you draw tough guys right off the bat, and you're going to take more lumps that way. Whereas we've got a number of duels coming up that you're going to get more of a variety of athletes that you'll be able to wrestle, and your competition will be more balanced. So hopefully those guys can pick up some wins that they're expecting.
Yeah, hopefully. The only thing is those are some darn tough duels too.
Yeah, they are.
So it's not like it's an easy stretch.
Right.
You could end up. That could go either way. Yeah, you're correct. Mm-hmm. Normally, you're going to get about 50-50. On average, you're going to get some really tough ones. You're going to get some, not quite as tough ones. But I just remember one year, Robert, his freshman year, going down to Fracas, and I think we mentioned it last year, where it was just one after another. Man, this guy's rated number one in C. This one's rated number one in Class B. Oh, shucks. Now you got number one in Class A. I don't know how that happens to anybody. It's just not fair. And so something like that could happen too. But you're correct. You get behind, on the wins, your seeding is in the seedable tournaments are tougher. So you're having a tough first round match, and so you're always behind a little bit. So, but hopefully those guys, and we'll talk to them and work with them, and that they understand that, what's going on. That this is tough competition, and especially if they're brand new. When I mean brand new, a guy who wrestles, just middle school wrestling only. That's brand new to me. Middle school wrestling is very important to our program, but to me, that's an introduction to wrestling. Saying, here's wrestling, these are some of the moves, but you don't really learn a lot.
Season's just so short.
Right, and that's kind of what I mean. It's not that you don't learn a lot. You're shown a lot of stuff, but you don't have the time to really learn and develop it. Right. It's an introduction is what it is. And if you do our club stuff, if you're just doing the local clubs, which most, some of our guys that do, you end up, if you don't go to the larger, especially the big state tournament or the larger, some of the regional or national level tournaments, that's kind of beginner tournaments,
mm-hmm.
The local tournaments around here. And that's good. That's a positive. That's a step up from middle school, but it's not quite, if you go to the big tournaments and the experiences you get there. So we got a lot of guys in those two categories. Probably most of them in the introductory category where they never wrestled club even. Because for many years I saw that coming up. Mm-hmm. Through our club program, where there was this gap of kids that even wrestle at all, number one, and then the ones that were actually wrestling weren't doing a lot of outside of the the local clubs, and so that's why we're sitting really inexperienced right now. But again, that they'll still come around. I mean, we got time with these young kids, and that's why I'm so excited about it, because there's some talent there.
Yeah, you can see it when they're wrestling, even if they're not getting the end result. Some of these guys are in matches very, and hanging with super tough guys, even though they're not as experienced. And it's good to see that raw talent, and we can definitely something we can work with, and they'll be coming around.
Yep, just got to keep their heads up, and
yep.
And we'll keep working on that part too. So. Anyhow, that's our competition for the week. You mentioned Elkhorn South and Fremont JV triangular. We didn't really touch on that much, but that's hard to talk about because those are set up and you match up kids based off what we try to do is in that situation is match up kids by ability from other schools, ability and weight. I mean, they have to be within one weight class that's required, and then ability level. And your ability level, you're talking to another coach and trusting what they have. You know, and sometimes, you know, they might have, and someone mentioned that the Elkhorn South sent one of their varsity guys or something that it probably didn't do much at a tournament, but still he's wrestling varsity level competition. That's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't want that taken wrong for Elkhorn South, that the kid needs development, obviously, and so that's their way of trying to give him development. Now he's going to have to sit out some varsity competition somewhere, you know, since he was there, if that's the case. And you know, and they got to do what they think is right for their kids to develop them, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we've done that before with Boys Town, sending, you know, some of our really, you know, inexperienced guys that are on varsity to JV in the past. I don't think we've done that in a while.
It's been a long time, yes.
So we used to years ago when we were in Class C, and sometimes it was just Boys Town would have been not a good experience. You know, it wouldn't have helped them out at all.
That was a long time. That might even been before you wrestled, but
no, that was.
It might have been around when you wrestled. We kind of stopped that because yeah, there was a time when, you know, we, you know, like I said, we were small and we had maybe 15 guys out for wrestling. So with 14 spots, guys were finding spots that never wrestled in the day before in their life,
Right.
And so it's like, all right, well, we're going to throw you into this. And at that time, Boys Town was in his prime, you know, and so it doesn't do a whole lot of good to go out and get pinned twice in 30 seconds and be done for the whole weekend. So, but anyhow, that's kind of the logic that maybe Elkhorn South is using.
Right.
I'm not sure. And we don't do that anymore, number one, because I never really liked doing it that way. You know, and also, we're big enough now that I think if you're making our varsity lineup, you need that strong competition to push yourself, and you know, if somebody finds their way in the lineup, you know, they're gonna learn and get some lessons. So, how to get better. And so anyhow, but so as far as that triangle win, it's hard to gauge. It's getting experience is what that is about for those guys. You know, and you know, obviously, like you said, we got a lot to work on at that level, varsity level too. And it's not the effort; it's just the experience. And the best way to get experience is to get out there and wrestle. And so that's what we did, and had that triangular, and you know, and seeing the results at the Fort Calhoun JV tournament, I was really pleased seeing some of that. You know, Jake Steyer getting a win in a championship, that's great for him. He's a guy I have high hopes for down the road. You know, good athlete, just needs to learn. You know, and Phoenix and Nick and Keaton, you know, getting second place at that tournament. You know, there are some big schools there. You know, Millard South. They send some kids to that tournament that will make a lot of varsity tournament or a lot of varsity teams.
Yes.
You know, so there's several Class A schools there, so that's a good solid tournament. And for those guys to place that high, and you know, those three guys all I think have great potential. You know, for us down the road. You know, they're all first year high school wrestlers. You know, I know Nick is a sophomore, but you know, he didn't come out last year, and then he's one of those that did a lot of the local club stuff. And we think he has a lot of talent, and a lot of potential. But there's some things he needs to do to help get himself better. And those things we'll talk with him. And, you know, certainly Keaton and Phoenix are those guys came out in middle school. So they're in the introductory phase, you know, They just got introduced to it. And for them to get second all those guys get second and Jake to get first, you know, at that tournament is just, you know, great for them. And, you know, because I see a lot of potential yet in them. I mean, they're not even close to where they're going to be at by the time they're done. just because they, the little experience they have. And good to see some of these other guys, Dawson getting third and Joe getting third. Joe came a long ways from last year. So good to see that for Joe. Logan Burmester finishing third. Third place sometimes is as good as second place because
you might lose to the champ.
Yeah, you got beat by the champ. And I don't know if that was the case in his situation, but Logan's a guy we think is going to battle all year long for varsity.
Mm-hmm.
We thought he'd have a good chance of being our varsity guy, and he lost a very close 1-point wrestle off that's going to go on all year long. So it's going to help him get better and help Hunter get better, so finishing third is certainly respectable too. I mean, that's like I said, that's probably as good as getting second sometimes because you probably got beat by the first place guy. Then good to see a couple of those other guys, Lucas getting them, in there for fourth, and Carter and Tyler. All those guys are just brand new wrestlers, and so just getting a win here or there to start with and build from there is what we want to see, and that's fantastic. So real happy with what I saw there as far as results. Again, I wasn't there to see it, so I couldn't comment on the technique or anything, but from what you're saying, the effort, and the fight out of the kids is great, and that's exactly what we want to see. I preach to the kids too. If one of the things I want to see, if they lose the match, I want to see them battling so hard that guy, when he comes over, his opponent comes to shake my hands, he's either mad or his headgear's on crooked because he was so tired not to fix it right, and hair's all over the place, and so the guy's been in battle and he doesn't want to wrestle us again.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna lose, I want to lose in fighting them. So it's great to hear that that's what we're seeing out of those guys, and I see that across the board, even on all our team. So that's one thing I just real excites me about our team too is the fight they have and the desire to be good and successful, and that's just going to take time, but we're doing well. I think we're doing well in that area.
Yep. Just a reminder, the show's sponsored by Midwest Designs. Go to midwestdesigns.org. If you're interested in those clear bags before state, you may want to hit up that contact form and let us know beforehand, so you don't potentially miss out at the last trying to get a last second bag for that clear bag policy that all the arenas have. So check it out, midwestdesigns.org.
Or Christmas shopping.
There you go, Christmas shopping for the people that are going to state.
You know what? Thing of Christmas shopping, they can get one of those bags, and then they can buy our Badger Tough book, put it together, and that make a nice gift for Christmas.
Go. Perfect.
We still got books for sale.
So this coming week, I guess before we hit up the competition preview, fewer practices, obviously, with the Central Duel on Tuesday, and then so practice Monday and Wednesday and Thursday. But Thursday after practice, we gotta hop on a bus.
No, we don't. Just
I'll change the schedule. Oh, good timing to everybody listen up. That's why you tune into the show. We got last minute updates.
Well, it's not totally last minute if you look at the calendar.
Fine, live updates.
The updated calendar, but as far as this, talk about the practice schedule, we have practice tomorrow, obviously, and preparing for our duel. We're going to go over the things from this past weekend that we need to work on and fix, and so it's a very, very important practice for us.
Mondays are almost always the most important practice, and then right after duels too.
Right, I'd say the most important practice of the week is right after competition. Then Tuesday we have our duel. It's a military appreciation duel against Omaha Central. We really want to pack that place, so call your friends, contact them, put it out there, Facebook, whatever it takes. Let's see if we can pack that. What I'd like to see is we do our duels in the auxiliary gym, because it's a better atmosphere for wrestling. It gets louder, and it gets pretty exciting. we want every seat full in that place, and I'd love to see people standing behind and people up above in that walkway above the railing, looking over the railing because they're so full. That would be the best thing ever.
I'd like to see the student section turn out for this. The Blue Crew, man, I'm hitting you up right now. Blue Crew. The guys are wearing the camo singlets. I think Blue Crew's got to get out there and tell all the students to show up and do the camo thing like they do for football and basketball. Show up in camo for the military appreciation duel on Tuesday against Central, Class A team. So you know it's going to be good competition.
Ranked number 7 in one of the polls. So the top 10 team in Class A. And speaking of camo, that's the theme of the duel is camo day. So the students can bring their camo and wear it. And yes, some of our guys know the person on the student section Twitter, and they're talk to him, and they're going to promote it. So hopefully we could see that. Just a little challenge to the student section. I hear that they're the greatest student section in the state. Everything I see, I have to agree that they're a great student, or at least a very good student section. Now let's take it to that next level. And showing up for wrestling events as far as home events. I understand some of the away ones, but show that the greatest. I mean, as soon as you can claim to be the greatest is when you show up at the wrestling events too. Because you look at places like Kearney, Columbus, they packed the place for wrestling and basketball. So those that's where you become the greatest, when you pack it for everything. And so it's not unusual for wrestling events. Yes, I understand that wrestling's not as popular, as some of the other sports, but there are plenty of places. You go into Iowa, and they pack the gyms there. I remember one of the coaches told me that, from Nebraska, he got a job in Iowa. And I don't remember what school it was, but kind of in central part of Iowa. And he said the first time he went out for a duel, he looked around the gym and he thought he was at a basketball game because it was packed. There's no place to sit, and people were standing. And so I'm hoping that that's what we see on Tuesday, and let Central know, Omaha Central. I mean, that's Class A. They're one of the biggest schools in the state. Let them know.
The biggest school in the state.
Yeah, let them know that the Bennington Badgers, they have the best student section in the state. They have the best fans in the state. And let them know that we intend on winning that duel. And it'll be a lot of fun. So
yeah, all you students listening and watching, let all your buddies know. Show up. Let's be loud. Let's really show it to Omaha Central that we do have the best student section in the state.
Okay, so going on for the rest of the week. Wednesday and Thursday we got practice. Obviously, we do not leave on Thursday this year, and this was a late change. The schedule came out. They're moving back the start time to. I believe it's 11 o'clock, and I'll actually get some more information out to the parents probably on Wednesday, because this week I'll be focusing on getting, scouting and getting ready for the duel, and I want to focus on that, and Wednesday I plan to get that information, email out to the parents. And as far as the fracas goes, we'll leave early Friday morning. Time to be determined yet, but we leave early Friday morning. We can only take 20 wrestlers, so it won't be everyone. We'll take the varsity, obviously, and then whatever backups we think will help us the most or be of the most value to us. And it doesn't always mean the best JV wrestler goes. Usually that's the case. But what I'm saying is, we try to find where if we have an injury or maybe something that we have a good wrestler to back up that we might use, to put in a lineup, it comes down to matchups. Again, scouting the teams and seeing what we need. With a full lineup like we got, we don't do a lot of moving around, but there may be some. So it's also, we try spreading things out so we have coverage in case there's an injury somewhere where we can put someone in. Some of that will be determined by some of the challenge matches this week. I guess I should back up to that. Wednesday will be our challenge match day. And what that is we have our lineup set based off the wrestle-offs. If someone wants to challenge for a varsity spot, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. Now, if we think someone's close, we encourage them to do it, but it's definitely up to them. And also, we have a depth chart. On our wall, we're off our black and blue duel, and those wrestle-offs prior to that, we set the depth as far as first, second, third position. Whatever position you're at, you can challenge up one, and it's like climbing a ladder. You go up one, and you beat that guy, you beat the next guy, and then you get the varsity, you get the challenge there. So challenge matches will be Wednesday. That'll also help us kind of settle who's going to go. It's not the final determination who's going, but it certainly if you're number 3 in your position, unless there's certain circumstances that we think you could help us, it's tough chance that you're even going to go to the fracas. And again, the only reason why is we're not allowed more than 20 guys on the floor. Mm-hmm. So, but that'll be Friday and Saturday. Fracas is a great event for us. It's probably known as the toughest tournament now in Nebraska. It is a dual style tournament, so we'll, we haven't got the schedule yet of what duels. Traditionally, we've gotten 7 duels. Assuming that'll be the same.
It looks like we are in Pool C, at least to start with. They've released a few things out there, not quite the full brackets, but it looks like we're lining up against Northwest and Grand Island, at least to start the tournament. We'll see if that holds true here.
Yeah, I haven't received anything, and maybe you see something on track.
Yep, it's back up.
But I'll probably get something. Usually Monday or Tuesday they send all that out after they see some of the results from this week, and certainly love to see Grand Island Northwest, because they're in Class B, and there's some matchups I'd like to see there. They're going to be a very tough team, to beat, but it also gives us an opportunity to wrestle their individuals. But again, that's all speculation at this point. As far as who we see, it's a quality tournament. I think there's 4 or 5 states represented. The top teams in A and B, almost the top teams in B. I mean, Scott's not there, but
right.
Just about everybody else in Class B is. And the top teams in Class A are there. They got some new teams from Kansas that are highly ranked in Kansas that are there, and Colorado, Wyoming come out, and so it's a great tournament. I think last year was, if I remember right, they had 2 nationally ranked teams and 17 top 10 teams there. We finished. We've had a lot of success at it too. Last year with our team, we finished 12th, and that doesn't sound like much, but think about it. There's 17 teams are ranked, and we finished 12th. This Class B state dual runner-up team finished 13th, so we finished ahead of them there, and so we had a great tournament last year. We finished 4th in that tournament twice, which is just, finished 4th is excellent. I'd like to finish higher still yet, yes, but then that's going to be always our goal. But we've had good success there, and it's been a great experience seeing some great teams there too.
Yep. So speaking of duels, the way too early status of the state duels wild card, we're currently sitting in 3rd with 46 points behind Blair and Scott. Like I said, way too early status. Only have 1 duel, so that doesn't really give us an indication of. But we do have 46 wild card points. So this week will definitely have a sizable impact on where we
Yeah, I
end up.
can't see that staying there right now, but yeah, and I can't even be counting. That's only one duel, and but yeah, we'll find out again more about ourselves this
Right.
week. I think we're a little better duel team than we were last year. Based off how things are going right now, but that's yet to be determined, and we'll know a lot more this coming week. Boys Town gave us a little more indication where we're at, and certainly next week we'll really find out.
Yep. So, any other hot topics or things you want to talk about today before we wrap it up?
Not necessarily. I mean, we think we covered about everything at this point. With the competitions past and what's coming up next week and practices, but we'll just keep working hard and keep getting better. That's the goal.
Alrighty. So tune in next week. We will have a recap of the Omaha Central duel. We'll recap the fracas, and we won't have any preview to do because we'll have the weekend off.
We have Beatrice duel.
Oh, that's right. We do have one duel after that, so we'll preview Beatrice a little bit, and then we'll have the Christmas break and come back for Badger duels. But tune in next week, same time, same place, 2:00. Otherwise, if you can't watch the show live, you can listen or watch the podcast afterward. Across most of the major platforms now, using Anchor to send it out to the Apple Podcasts over iTunes and Spotify and Google Podcasts and all those different places. So you can tune in on any of those if you want to listen while you're shoveling snow or whatever else, while you're working out in the gym, whatever you want. So once again, tune in, and we'll see you next week.